All right, so you're thinking about opening a restaurant in Riyadh. That's awesome. It's a city that's absolutely exploding with flavor right now. We've got a stack of info here pulled straight from the experts, and we're ready to break it all down for you. Today's main course is an article called How to Start a Restaurant in Riyadh. Permits and licenses, full guide. It's a bit of a mouthful, but trust me, it's packed with insights you won't want to miss.
What's really fascinating about Riyadh right now is this perfect storm brewing. You've got rapid economic growth, a cultural shift towards dining out, and a young, diverse population hungry for new experiences.
Okay, so we're not just talking about a city that loves to eat. We're talking about a city that's primed for exciting new restaurant concepts. What kind of trends are we seeing emerge from this perfect storm?
We're seeing some really interesting developments, particularly in the realm of health-conscious menus, the integration of technology like QR code ordering, and this real fascination with fusion cuisine.
Now, that's something I can sink my teeth into. I mean, imagine a fast casual place serving up healthy, customizable bowls with ingredients sourced from local farms, all ordered seamlessly through a QR code. Or how about a fine dining experience that blends traditional Saudi flavors with modern Mediterranean cuisine?
You're spot on. And when you consider Riyadh's incredibly diverse demographics, young professionals, families, a large expat community, the potential for success is enormous.
So we've got the culinary landscape, we've got the trends. Now let's talk about the foundation of any successful restaurant, the business plan.
Absolutely. And I can't stress enough how crucial a tailored business plan is in a market like Riyadh. It's not just about outlining your concept, it's about deep diving into market research, dissecting the competition, and understanding precisely what Riyadh diners crave.
So it's about finding that gap in the market, that unique offering that sets you apart from the crowd. And I imagine location plays a huge role in that equation.
Location can make or break you, especially in a city as sprawling as Riyadh. We're talking about high-traffic areas with good accessibility, but also being mindful of zoning laws. You wouldn't want to invest in a space only to find out it's not zoned for restaurant use.
That's a great point. I bet navigating those zoning regulations can be a bit of a minefield.
It certainly can be. That's where a local expert can be invaluable. They can help you decode the intricacies of Riyadh's rules and ensure you're on solid legal ground right from the start.
Let's talk about the elephant in the room. Rent. Prime locations often come with premium price tags. How do you advise our listeners to strike that balance between rent, visibility, and accessibility?
It's about strategic thinking. While high rent in a prime location might seem daunting, remember that visibility often translates to foot traffic, which can significantly boost revenue. Think of it as an investment that pays dividends in the long run.
Okay, so we've got our concept, we found the perfect location. Now comes the paperwork, right? Let's be honest. Dealing with permits and licenses can be a bit of a headache. What are the absolute essentials our listeners need to know when it comes to setting up shop in Riyadh?
In Riyadh, you'll need 3 key licenses. The first is the General Trading License, which allows you to operate any commercial business in Saudi Arabia. Then there's the Restaurant Activity License, specific to food and beverage service. And finally, the Municipality License, or Baladia as it's locally known, ensures compliance with health and safety regulations.
And of course, we can't forget about food safety. I imagine the Saudi Food and Drug Authority, the SFDA, has some pretty strict standards.
Absolutely. Meeting SFDA requirements is non-negotiable. It's about demonstrating your commitment to food safety and building that all-important trust with your customers.
Speaking of regulations, what about labor laws and Saudization policies? I know hiring Saudi nationals is a key requirement.
You're right. Complying with Saudization is crucial, both from a legal standpoint and from the perspective of contributing to the local economy. It's a win-win situation.
Okay, so we've tackled the licenses and permits, the legal side of things. Let's shift gears now and talk about the nitty-gritty of setting up the restaurant itself.
All right, let's dive into the practical aspects.
We've covered a lot of ground already. Business plans, licenses, regulations. But now let's get into the nuts and bolts of actually setting up shop. Where do we even begin?
Well, first things first, you'll need to make sure all your utilities are in order. That means connecting electricity, water, and gas. You want to be sure those kitchens are humming and the lights are shining bright on opening night.
I've heard that a lot of restaurants in Riyadh rely on bottled gas for cooking. Is that something our listeners should be aware of?
It's definitely a common practice here. While some newer establishments might have piped gas connections, many restaurants, especially in older parts of the city, still use bottled gas. It's just another one of those logistical nuances you'll need to factor in.
Speaking of logistics, what about waste management? I know Riyadh has pretty strict guidelines when it comes to sustainability.
You're absolutely right. Waste management isn't just about keeping the city clean, it's about responsible environmental practices. Riyadh has implemented comprehensive waste management regulations, and complying with them is crucial for both legal reasons and maintaining a positive public image.
It's about doing business the right way, being a responsible member of the community.
Exactly. And while we're on the topic of responsibility, let's not forget about fire safety. This is something that can't be overlooked.
Of course. Safety always comes first. What are some of the key things our listeners need to consider when it comes to fire safety regulations in Riyadh?
Well, first and foremost, you'll need to ensure your restaurant meets all the fire safety requirements set by the civil defense. This includes things like having adequate fire extinguishers and sprinkler systems, clearly marked emergency exits, and proper ventilation in the kitchen. You'll also need to schedule an inspection with the fire department to get your establishment certified.
So there's a bit of legwork involved. But it's all worth it to ensure the safety of both staff and customers.
Absolutely. And don't forget about training your staff on fire safety procedures and emergency evacuation plans. A well-prepared team can make all the difference in a critical situation.
Okay, so we've covered the practical aspects of setting up the physical space. Now let's talk about the financial side of things. I know numbers can be intimidating, but mastering this part of the equation is essential for long-term success.
You've hit the nail on the head. Financial management is the backbone of any successful restaurant.
Let's start with the basics. What are some of the key financial considerations our listeners need to keep in mind when operating a restaurant in Riyadh?
Well, one of the most important things to understand is value-added tax, or VAT. In Saudi Arabia, the standard VAT rate is 15%, and it applies to most goods and services, including restaurant sales.
So, how does VA work in practice? What do our listeners need to do to ensure they're compliant with VAT regulations?
First and foremost, you'll need to register your restaurant for VAT with the Zakat Tax and Customs Authority, or ZATCA. Once you're registered, you'll need to charge VAT on all your sales and file regular VAT returns.
I imagine staying organized and keeping accurate records is crucial when it comes to VAT.
Absolutely. Investing in reliable accounting software can be a lifesaver. It streamlines your accounting processes, helps you track sales and expenses, and makes generating those VAT returns much easier.
So having a solid accounting system in place is essential. What about managing cash flow? Any tips for our listeners on keeping those coffers full?
One crucial strategy is budgeting for seasonal trends. Riyadh's restaurant scene can experience fluctuations throughout the year, with certain periods being busier than others. Having a financial cushion for those slower months can make a big difference.
That makes sense. It's all about anticipating those ebbs and flows in the market. What other strategies can help restaurateurs manage their cash flow effectively?
Another key area is controlling operational costs. This means keeping a close eye on your food costs, labor expenses, and overhead.
So it's about being savvy and making smart decisions when it comes to sourcing ingredients, managing staffs, and controlling those day-to-day expenses.
Precisely. Even small adjustments can have a big impact on your bottom line. And speaking of anticipating the future, I highly recommend using cash flow forecasts.
How can cash flow forecasts help restaurant owners in Riyadh?
By predicting your future revenue and expenses, you can get a much clearer picture of your financial health. This allows you to anticipate potential shortfalls, identify opportunities for growth, and make strategic decisions to optimize your cash flow.
It's like having a financial roadmap that helps you navigate the unpredictable terrain of the restaurant business.
Exactly. And that brings us to the exciting part, marketing. After all, you can have the most amazing restaurant in Riyadh, but if nobody knows about it, you're not going to have much success.
Okay, let's shift gears and talk about how to get those hungry diners through the door. What are some of the key marketing strategies that work well in Riyadh?
In a city as vibrant and dynamic as Riyadh, a strong online presence is absolutely essential. We're talking about creating a buzz on social media, partnering with food influencers, and optimizing your Google business profile.
So social media is key. What about those traditional marketing methods? Do they still hold weight in Riyadh?
Absolutely. Don't underestimate the power of word-of-mouth marketing. Building relationships with local food bloggers and journalists can also generate valuable buzz. And even tried-and-true methods like flyers and billboards strategically placed in high-traffic areas can still be effective in reaching a wider audience.
It's about finding the right mix of online and offline strategies to create a multifaceted marketing campaign. What about those all-important first-time customers? Any tips for creating a truly memorable dining experience that will keep them coming back for more?
Promotions and special offers are always a great way to entice new customers. Think lunch deals, seasonal promotions, and loyalty programs that reward repeat business. It's about creating that sense of value and showing your customers that you appreciate their patronage.
And behind every successful restaurant is a dedicated and well-trained team. What advice do you have for our listeners when it comes to staffing their restaurant in Riyadh?
Building a strong team is absolutely essential, and it starts with finding the right people. Remember those Saudization policies we discussed earlier? Hiring Saudi nationals is a key requirement, but it's also an opportunity to tap into local talent and expertise.
So it's about finding that balance between fulfilling those requirements and creating a diverse and skilled workforce.
Exactly. And once you've assembled your team, investing in comprehensive training is crucial. This includes not only the technical aspects of food preparation and service, but also essential skills like customer service,
Yeah,
communication, and cultural sensitivity.
that's a great point. Cultural sensitivity is paramount in a city as diverse as Riyadh.
Absolutely. Training your staff to understand and respect the cultural nuances of your diverse customer base will create a more welcoming and inclusive dining experience. It's about making everyone feel valued and respected.
Okay, so we've got our team in place. They're trained and ready to go. We're almost there. What are some final things our listeners should keep in mind as they approach opening day?
Before you officially open those doors, make sure you've completed all those final inspections. Health, fire, building, zoning. It's always better to be safe than sorry. You might also consider having a soft launch before your grand opening.
What's the benefit of a soft launch?
A soft launch is a great way to test the waters, so to speak. You can invite a smaller group of friends, family, or even local food bloggers to try out the menu and provide feedback. It's a chance to iron out any kinks in the operation before you officially open to the public.
So it's like a dress rehearsal for the main event. And then when everything is polished and perfect, it's time for the grand opening.
Exactly. This is your chance to make a splash, generate buzz, and really showcase your unique concept to the city. Think about creative ways to celebrate, whether it's special promotions, live entertainment, or partnering with social media influencers. Make it a night to remember.
But opening night is just the beginning, right? What advice do you have for our listeners on ensuring long-term success in Riyadh's competitive restaurant scene?
You're right. The journey doesn't end on opening day. Staying compliant with all those licenses and regulations we talked about earlier is crucial. Make sure you're renewing your licenses on time and staying informed about any changes in regulations that might affect your operation.
So it's about staying on top of those administrative tasks and ensuring everything is always in order.
Absolutely. And just as important is staying ahead of the curve. The restaurant industry is constantly evolving, especially in a dynamic city like Riyadh. Embrace new technologies, stay informed about emerging food trends, and be willing to adapt and innovate.
It's about constantly seeking ways to improve, evolve,
Yeah,
and exceed customer expectations.
exactly. And never underestimate the power of customer loyalty. Building strong relationships with your customers, offering exceptional service, and creating a truly memorable dining experience will pay dividends in the long run.
So there you have it, future restaurateurs of Riyadh. We've covered a lot of ground today, from the initial planning stages to the grand opening and beyond. Starting a restaurant is a challenging but incredibly rewarding endeavor. And with the right knowledge, preparation, and passion, your culinary dreams can become a reality in this vibrant city.
Remember, Riyadh is a city that embraces diversity, innovation, and of course, delicious food.
Now, one final question to leave you with as you embark on this exciting journey. What unique dining experience do you want to bring to Riyadh? Let that question simmer. And we'll catch you next time on The Deep Dive.